Hi, everybody. It's your teacher, Meg. I just wanted to catch up with our discussions from last week. And we're not going to be talking about discussion number 10. You should all look for individual comments and replies to your post in discussion 10 because I want to make sure you are on the right track for your personal project. And so I'll give you each individual replies for discussion number 10. But for discussion number 11, we're talking about what kind of collector would you be? And you had two articles to compare the Vogels and the Annenbergs as collectors. And I think it's safe to say that the majority of you really connected with the Vogels as a kind of collector. So let's look at some of your responses. Isabel Alvarado made this wonderful observation. The couple didn't care about the money they could make from the collection. Instead, they cared about making their art collection together and supporting the different artists. So I love both of those points. First of all, building something together, right? There's something really powerful in this kind of mutual support that they gave each other and this thing that they built together, and it became a part of their lives. It became part of their marriage. It becomes their lasting legacy. And I just love the idea that it wasn't about an individual ego. It was about building something really dynamic and bigger than each individual. And so that together part of it, I think, is really beautiful. So thank you for pointing that out, Isabel. And then she made the point about supporting the different artists, which is a point that also Julia Salas made, who and Julia point out when they would purchase artwork from upcoming artists, they would give them advice to expand their artwork so they can become good artists in the future. And I just love that sentiment. A lot of you pointed that out, that there's more to an art community than just the artist. There's also this like you have to support the whole community. So there's artists, and then there's a buying community, and then there's an exhibiting community like galleries and museums, and then there's the people who sell, and all of it together is a really vital, important community. And I feel like it's so great that they supported the whole community, right? That they really wanted the artists to succeed and be a part of it, because they really had this belief. I think that the arts bring a lot to our culture, right? They're really important. They're vital to being a successful and dynamic and robust culture. And so they wanted to support that and be a part of this whole thing. So that there was like this almost lack of ego on their part. That it wasn't just about them, it was about this whole collective community. So that's a beautiful sentiment. And then I love what Angelo Padilla pointed out, that the Vogels had no formal training in art collecting. How great is that, right? I think it's a great example of the fact that you can never underestimate the power of passion. Right, that even though they didn't have anything formal, that they were kind of outsiders really in terms of the art world, but their passion drove what they did. They were excited about it. They wanted to do it better and in depth, and they had a drive to what they did. And when you have that, you can create an excellence around that, right? You don't have to go through all the right channels always. You can sometimes create an excellence and a really high bar, just based on your intensity and your excitement and your interest in something. So that was a really great point. And then Rodolfo kind of echoed that and made this interesting point. I didn't highlight it here, but said the reason is I would start from scratch, which is nothing, right? Isn't that where we all would start if we're collecting art? I don't have like a big bank account to invest in, right? So I love that Rodolfo was inspired by their kind of starting at ground zero. And he would teach himself from buying art. So the very act of doing is where the learning comes from. And that is a wonderful kind of life lesson and inspiration, really, that, we all start somewhere, right? None of us are born with all the talents and skills that we need. But if you have the courage to jump in about something you're passionate about, you can build it, So that's a great lesson to learn from them. Thank you for pointing out, Rodolfo. And then Angelo, again, I pulled another part of his post. pointing out how Mr. Vogel landed a job at the post office working a graveyard shift in the dead letter department. Doesn't that sound like a nothing job, right? I mean, when you say it that way, it sounds like, what can you do with that in your life? But Vogel did a lot with just that job, right? And what I love is that Angela goes on to point out, me today, I have 2 jobs working one after the other, and I still find time to do what I love and work out and spend time with others. Me too. How many of us can say that we're just like busy up to here, right? I've got more than 2 jobs. I have a lot to do, but there's always something. We're not so different from them, right? Everybody's in that situation, and they took that situation and still did what they wanted to out of it. And I love that Angelo feels a connection there, that we're not so different from them, right? He's not so different from the Vogels. I'm not so different from the Vogels. And I feel like that's really great to feel like we can all kind of connect on that level. Laura pointed out um, a, a note about her own art collection that she has. And here's what I love. Describing like why she has some of them. Some have meaning simply because of who gave them to me, and others have meaning because I saw it and I loved it, and the moment I saw it, I had the means to purchase it without doing any cat sitting as part of the transaction, right? So I love that. Sometimes we do what we have to do, right? Sometimes it takes some cat sitting. Okay, that's what we have to do. So I love that Laura brought that into the conversation. That's kind of how the Vogels were, right? They did what they had to do. They saved one income and lived off of the other. And, I think too that Laura's hinting at this sort of barter economy that we've all sort of had to buy into a little bit in the hard economic times. Sometimes it's more efficient and it's better for everybody if we do something in trade. And the Vogels had that kind of attitude, right? You do what you have to do to make your dreams and your passions come true. So that was a great anecdote, Laura, and really connected with, I think, the nature of the Vogels. And then Alexander pointed out what I was hoping somebody would point out, and that is that at the end, what was most important, sorry, I got a message there. What was most important was that they gave it away. They gave it to the National Gallery. So at the end of all that scrimping and saving and talking to artists and supporting artists and being a part of this really incredible journey, they could have cashed in. They could have finally made money off of the appreciation of their artworks, like millions of dollars off of that. But what did they do? They gave it away to the National Gallery, which, by the way, is a museum in Washington, D.C., which is always free to everybody. And so they made it a part of everything. They made it a part of, so everybody had access to it. And I think that's spectacularly generous, right? And then I do appreciate that Shania, I can never say your name, Shania. I'm so sorry, Shania or Shania. It's a beautiful name, either way. But pointing out that the Annenbergs did something very similar, right? That they gave away their work. And Mr. Annenberg said, I still believe that in the idea of making all the world available to all people. So he had a really wide collection of a lot of different cultures. And so he really believed in the gesture of making that available to a lot of people. And thank goodness that he did, because there's a lot of artwork around the United States that people are able to see because they bothered to collect it, and then they were generous enough to give it away. So a lot of great ideas from everybody today. This is one of my favorite discussions because I think it's such a real world issue. Everybody could be an art collector if we want to be. And both the stories are kind of inspirational, and everybody seems to really connect with them. So thanks everybody for a great conversation, and I'll see you online. Bye-bye.